In this experiment, the agent stores how it manages a project as wiki documents a person can read. Opening that wiki in Obsidian, you can see activity records, sprints, skills, and concepts split into folders. Each time a sprint finishes, its prompt and result are recorded into this structure, and the more the project repeats, the more these accumulated records improve the next task. As these records pile up, the wiki keeps growing, and opening documents one by one gets tedious. So a Claude Desktop MCP App Dashboard summarizes the project's progress as cards and graphs you can see at a glance. You can quickly follow how far things have come without unfolding the whole wiki. First, we put a one-page English manual, published on GitHub, into an empty folder and gave the AI coding agent a single line. Read this folder's manual and bootstrap as it instructs. From that manual alone, the agent created a raw folder that keeps external originals, a wiki folder that it owns as its knowledge base, and a schema file that records the conventions. Inside the wiki, it laid out places for activity records, sprints, skills, and concepts, and that becomes the foundation where all future work piles up and grows smarter. In this sprint, the agent absorbed Andrej Karpathy's LLM wiki piece into the wiki. It read the piece end to end, pulled out the core claims, created one summary page and 3 concept pages, and then registered them in the master index and the chronological log. Because this was the very first task, it deliberately did not create a reuse skill. It would not invent a repetition that was not there yet. In this sprint, the agent pulled in the second source, Anthropic's Building Effective Agents piece, organized it into the wiki, and also enriched the concept pages built up in the first sprint. Although nobody asked it to make a skill, once this organizing work happened for the second time, the rule that says do the same work twice and turn it into a skill kicked in, and the first reuse skill was generated automatically. In this sprint, the agent organized a third source, but instead of doing it by hand, it followed the skill it had made last time, exactly as written. That skill is stored in the wiki folder and is set up so the agent loads and uses it automatically. Using it for real exposed 2 gaps, which it fixed into the next version. In this sprint, for a wiki that had only been gathering material, the agent used the query feature for the first time. It was asked to map this wiki method onto an autonomous agent's 3 parts: planning, memory, and tool use. Without pulling in any outside material, the agent synthesized an answer from the concepts gathered so far, left it as a new page, and recorded both where the mapping holds and where it breaks. This sprint is the last of the 5-step demo. With a second query, the agent tested from wiki material alone whether this rule of recording every failure resembles any other AI design principle. Although nobody asked it to make a skill, once the query happened for the second time, the rule generated the query skill automatically. In this sprint, the agent built the wiki-health-check as a reusable skill and ran it across the whole wiki for the first time. Looking at things like broken links and orphan pages, it flagged and reported only a stale index, a vocabulary mismatch, and a duplicate record. With that, all 3 operating features, organizing material, querying, and checking, are now skills. In this sprint, the agent gathered every work record into a single activities folder. Each time a task finishes, one activity file is added, and each record captures on one page when, who, what, why, and how it was done. So the old chronological file was deleted to remove duplication, and the time order now emerges naturally from the file names alone. Let's look at how the first 7 sprints stacked up in the wiki. Each sprint gets its own folder, and inside are finely split task files. Open one task and a single page of instructions tells what to do and how. Open the sprint document and you can see the goal, the progress status, and a result summary at a glance. In this sprint, the agent built an MCP-server dashboard itself. The first 7 sprints were wiki organizing, but this time it applied the same method to a code build for the first time. It kept the code outside the wiki, wrote the spec before building, and made a read-only server that reads its own wiki and computes statistics. In this sprint, the agent finished the dashboard by adding 2 tools to the one it had just made: a tool that groups activities by type and a tool that opens a single item. When opened in a browser, it drew a screen showing the same statistics using only its own code, with no external tools. In this sprint, the agent fixed the problem of the dashboard not opening in Claude Desktop. The cause was that the tools only return data with no screen, so it turned the dashboard and list tools into real MCP app tools that bring up a screen. Now, a screen with stat cards and graphs opens inside Claude. In this sprint, the agent solved the previous dashboard not opening on screen. The cause was that it was a static file with the data baked in, so the program could not start it. So it changed the screen to join hands with the program, receive data, and draw itself, and bundled every piece into a single file. That file calls no external internet tools at all. In this sprint, the agent dressed up the dashboard app to look good and be navigable. It gave each kind of work a color, and clicking an item or a wiki link opens the document in the same screen and lets you go back. The screen drawing feature was built by hand with no external tools, so it is safe even without the internet. In this sprint, the agent made clicking a number card on the dashboard drop into that type's detailed list, and clicking an item in the list lead on to the document screen. Clicking a table header sorts the list, and it added refresh and back buttons. The card's number and the list's length always match exactly, so the numbers never disagree, and editing was not added yet. It stays read-only. In this sprint, the agent added 3 graphs to the dashboard: a donut graph showing which stage each sprint is at, a line graph showing the flow of activity by date, and a horizontal bar graph showing how much of each kind of work was done. These graphs are drawn by hand with screen drawing code and no external tools, so they work safely even without the internet. In this sprint, the agent added the ability to fix and save a document right in the dashboard. Until now, you could only look, but now you can edit text right on the screen, check the result in a preview beside it, and save. To keep content from changing by accident, though, saving is normally off and works only when it is turned on, as a safeguard. We started from a single one-page manual and watched the agent build its own wiki, grow reusable skills by repeating its work, and finally build a working dashboard. The key is that every task is fully recorded in a wiki a person can read, and those records become the foundation for the next task. One small manual became a workspace that grows on its own.